Welcome to the Allan Miles Show with me, Allan Miles, and today I'm joined by Tanner Chidester, all the way from the US, currently visiting the UK. Thanks for joining me, Tanner.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. You're an absolute legend for making this happen, so thank you.
It's all good. So for those of my audience that don't know you, who are you? What do you do?
Sure.
Explain your journey.
Sure. So one of 7 kids, 4 sisters, 2 brothers, grew up pretty religious, conservative household. Kind of my journey started. I got bullied a lot as a kid. I think I was just a little weird. My dad didn't help me a lot because we were just playing dress up with the sisters and stuff like that. So started working out when I was like 12. I started going to the gym before school, and in my head I was going to beat these kids up. But what happened is like 3 months into it, they started complimenting me. I was like, it was kind of like that positive reinforcement. It's like, oh, so if I work hard, good things happen. And then I started doing that with schoolwork and athletics. 12 to 22 is pretty much all American football. Like I just want to get to NFL. I got to Division I level, which is right under the NFL. Probably wasn't good enough, got hurt a lot, who knows, but probably a mix of both. So when that ended, I just really hated school, right? And I had great grades, all that stuff. I was actually studying petroleum engineering, which is pretty, I think it's pretty adverse for athletes to do that. But I just was like, yeah, this can't be the rest of my life. So I had a mentor to convince me to drop out with a year left. Okay. And pretty scary decision at the time. No one really supported me besides him, and he was, he was a family friend. But I was like, everyone's like, dude, you're stupid. Like, you got a year left. You got $100K salary as a petroleum engineer. My girlfriend split with me. It was a whole thing. So long story short, I dropped out 2 years. I just was really trying to figure out how to make money. I started an online fitness business, and it went nowhere. So I made about $2,000 in 2 years. And then finally, someone kind of taught me about high ticket. So for anyone who's listening doesn't know high ticket, it's just raising your prices. Like I went from 47 to 1,500 for like 3 or 4 month program, and things just started taking off from there. And so that blew up. That was my first year. I did $1 million plus, and then I started having all these personal trainers start asking me for help. So I started helping trainers. And then that year was probably the craziest. We did 10 million. So it was like a 10X. Like, Grant Cardone always says like 10X or whatever. So it was like that. And then I had more people who were not in the fitness niche who started helping me or asking me for help. And so then we did that. And so over that 8-year period, did about 141 million, to be like super exact and accurate. And like now I'm getting into other things as well, but that's pretty much my journey in a nutshell. The beginning years were pretty tough, but obviously it worked out.
So I came across you about 7 years ago, and I'll never forget the first time I spoke to you. It was my first experience of a high ticket sales call, and at the time you were actually in the middle of training your brother Gentry. He was on the call with us. And he was just like sat in listening.
Man, I don't remember that at all. It's crazy.
So I was stood in my other business. I ran a recruitment company for 4 or 5 years, and I've been in the industry for about 15 years. I was just sick to death of it. I've got 5 kids, and I just had my 5th. And I was like, I'm never home. I never see anyone. I'm working 70, 80, 90 hours a week.
Jeez.
And then I came across one of your ads, and I was like, well, I've lost 100 pounds in weight. I've always wanted to work in fitness. I wonder if I can do it. So I took the leap. I remember being stood in one of our interview pods.
Some of the trainer ads then.
I saw one of the trainer ads. It was when it was fitness CEOs. Still got the Team Chidester t-shirt that you sent out.
That's crazy, bro. That's crazy.
But it was one of those moments that it was such a strange world, because I'd gone from selling recruitment contracts for several million to all of a sudden some guy somewhere in America being like, hey, it's like whatever it was, like $10,000 or something, or $9,000. I was like, what? You want me to pay now? And you were like, well, you can pay a deposit and then pay the rest, or I'll put the price up, let it be more if you come back. And I was like, oh, okay then. So we took the leap, but that single moment, along with obviously the support of my wife, who was like, whatever you decide, I'll support you. I walked away from a business that we could have sold quite easily for 3 to 5 million. I walked away from it with £49 because the other partner refused to pay me out. That business folded in 6 months. And I was like, you've just got to take the leap. Like, you get to that point. For me, I think life
was that partner the majority owner?
Yeah, 51%. But I was the daily operator. So they were basically like, well, you can leave if you want. They thought I was going to another recruitment company. I was like, I'm leaving the industry. I'm going to become an online fitness trainer. And they looked at me like, what? What is that? So that single moment changed the journey for me, definitely, for the rest of my life. And I think that it's one of those spaces that having followed you and known you for a while, and obviously been inside of the programs, it's interesting to see the journey because you, like you say, you hear people like Grant Cardone. He gets quite a lot of hate a lot of the time. Grant has done some good things. I've worked with Grant, and he's helped a lot. But you've gone through that curve as well of when you first started making it. I remember as fitness CEOs was taking off, like Lynn Trin was one of your main competitors, and he was trying to like troll everything. Then James Smith got involved at one point, and it was this crazy world. Seeing like the online fitness world, like for you, what has been some of the hardest moments? Because I think your content always shows great stuff. You travel the world, you've earned your stripes. But what have been some of those hard moments for you?
Most of them were before like things took off, you know, because like I had a 2-year period where things were really not working. So I was working really hard, but it was like I was building funnels and learning emails and opt-in pages and stuff like that. But I didn't recognize that the price point was off, right? So I didn't have any money to like run ads to it. And then if I had, it would have probably cost me more than it would have, you know, cost to get a customer. And so I just had the wrong model. But I was working probably, you know, 12 hours a day. Like I would go to, I was like basically a server or I had a door-to-door sales job, one of the two during that time. So I was either a server at Olive Garden, which is like a chain in the US. It's like, you know, I'd probably make 15 an hour when it was all said and done. Or I would do door-to-door sales. And then after that, I'd go home, I'd rest, and then I'd start working on the business. And so I would say, you know, like 22 to like 25-ish, or like 22 and a half, whatever. Like it was basically, I would have gotten more out of Netflix. And that was a thought I would have sometimes, like, man, dude, I could literally sit here and watch Netflix and get more out of it because at least I'm relaxing. Yeah. So that was probably the hardest. And that's probably where I almost quit. Like, I want to say like 5 times, like I really genuinely considered walking away, and then I'd have my mentor, you know, walk me off the ledge, so to speak.
Why didn't you quit? Because obviously you can have somebody there, like a mentor in the corner, trying to talk you back. But what made you keep coming back?
Yeah, it's probably just ego. I think a lot of successful people, they have like, I forget who said this, but it's something around the fact of like crippling insecurity that you're not good enough, and then also kind of like the audacity that you can do it. And I think it was both of those. It was like I didn't want to have to look people in the face and say they were right. So this is kind of ego. It's like, you know, like F them, like I can do this, whatever. And then it's the other side of the coin is just you see other people doing it. It's like, man, like, I don't know if this guy can do it, like I can do it. I remember like the guy that stood out for me, I've mentioned a few times, like Billy Jean. You know, nothing wrong with Billy. I've talked to him a few times, but I just remember like seeing his ads, and I just like was like not impressed with it. Like I'm just like, who is this guy? And he says he's doing $1 million a month, and you know, I'm like, come on, like if this guy can do it, I can do it. And so it was really those two things, because I think when like things get to the point where you're just willing to do anything, that's actually when things change. Like it got to the point where I said, I'd rather be homeless than not make this work. And that's actually when I made a change, because for those 2 years, like I was kind of doing it, but you know, people are like, oh, you got time, you're 22, you're 23. It's kind of like, I kind of don't like that adults say that, because it's kind of this false security. And then finally, when I turned 25, I was like, yo, dude, like this is not, I don't have like time. And I actually noticed people stop saying it. They're like, they're kind of like, you need to kind of be figuring your life out, right? So it was probably those two things. It was just massive ego and not wanting to look like a failure, like a loser. And then just also on the other side, I'm like, I mean, if this guy can do it, there's got to be something I'm missing. And it was kind of those two things combined.
Okay. And then, so as you come through that, I think that's like the first place a lot of people quit. They go, this is too hard, I can't do it, I'm going back. Especially if they've got any other reason, like a kid, a marriage.
I say to this day, like I think, you know, 97% of people would have quit. I think, and the crazy part is like I look at myself as very mentally resilient. So if I almost quit, that kind of, when I started getting into mentorship, it wasn't really the plan, but I remember thinking, man, like if that happened to me, it's definitely happening to them, because I had, you know, 5 or 6 failures. Not only the 2 years, but then like the first 5 or 6 coaches I paid, like it didn't really pan out. So when I got into it, I just remember thinking like, man, if they're not as mentally tough as me, there's no way they're not going to quit.
So how do you handle that? Because obviously, you'll do the work. I know I'll do the work. I'm invested in tons of programs. And then you work with a coach who is just shit. And they're like, okay, well, I've got to try and get something out of this. And you'll be resourceful and get your money's worth. Yeah. But how do you handle it when somebody comes into one of your programs? You know the stuff's good because it's got you to where you are and hundreds of other people. And they're like, your stuff's the problem. Yeah. How do you handle those situations?
I mean, for the first part of my career, I didn't really handle it well. All right, so the first 2 clients I remember the first 2 clients I had actually in 30 days, they hit 10K. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, I'm going to be a billionaire. Like literally, because I was like, man, like if my first 2 clients got that, like everyone comes through, it's going to be crazy. And then I started getting kind of some of the clients that are not as skilled. So over time, what I've learned as I've gotten more mature and I've, interviewed like people who've sold, like I've only interviewed people who've sold like the lowest was like 40 million to like 4 billion. Mm-hmm. So like decent amount of billionaires in there. I don't know how many, but out of 40 people, it's like mega millionaires, billionaires. The reason that none of these types of companies are like $1 billion companies is because it's too dependent on the other person doing stuff, right? So like, let's say you're a good basketball coach. And so after a while, you start to realize like there's nothing you can actually do about it. Because at first I went in and I was like, maybe it's my program's problem. And then I like fixed it and I got it to where I thought it was as good as it could be. And then people would still have issues. And I was like, man, like, how can I get it to where no one has issues? The problem is it's like a athlete, right? So if I'm a basketball coach and you coach LeBron James, right, or Michael Jordan, whoever, and then you coach like a kindergartner, it's like, who's going to get better results? And it's like, well, LeBron. It's like, okay, well, why? It's like, well, LeBron's better. It's like, right. So I started to realize over time, it's not necessarily the coach, it's the person, right? And so if you have a 1 skill level, a 5 and a 10, the 1 will hate you. The 5 will be like, it's okay. The 10 will say it's amazing. And so really over time, I just started to realize that, and that's kind of like why I've been transitioning and so forth, is like, it's not built to be $1 billion business. A lot of the $1 billion businesses, they make it so the dumbest person gets the same results as the smartest person. So if you look at like ChatGPT, like it's like you can be an idiot and still get the result, or like Uber Eats or Uber. Those are just random examples off the top of my head, but a lot of the billionaires that I've met, they're in private equity, tech, or hedge funds. So private equity cuts out the worst businesses. You're only taking the best businesses. So that's why that one works. Tech, obviously, it's like if you like Uber Eats, it's like it cuts out a lot of that stuff, and then everyone gets the same result. So the tech works. And then like hedge funds is investing. So if you and me invest in, $100,000 in something, and like let's say hypothetically you're dumb and I'm smart, it's like, well, we're going to get the same return. So I started realizing over time, instead of trying to like force a square into a circle, I just need a different business model. And if you're not going to change it, you just have to realize that's just part of the game, because it does drive you crazy at first, because if you're a good person and you have ethics, you want everyone to win. But you just realize over time, not everyone can win simply because their skill level is not there. But that's what people do, is they'll blame you instead of themselves. When I actually went into coaching programs and it failed, like the crazy part was like, I would still be like, oh, I got to be doing something wrong. I got to be doing something wrong. And most people, they just don't have that mindset. So they answered the question, but yeah.
Yeah, no, it does. So how do you separate that logic? Because obviously you said building the business, and I think it's a really common thing, isn't it? It's ego driven at first, which means it's part of you in a way. And I see it a lot, especially with very heart-centered business owners, like in the mindset coaching space, fitness coaching space. They're very much like their business is an extension of them. If somebody says something negative about their business, it wounds them. They get very upset about it. And you see that kind of like self-destruction cycle happen. Yeah. How were you able to separate the logic that you've just explained from that ego piece of somebody? Because it's always the dumbest person's the loudest person. Going to social media being like, oh, well, this program's terrible. I paid all this money. I'm going to sue him.
Yeah. The suing stuff's always funny. Yeah, I think it's just over time. So it's going to sound bad, but if someone every day told you, you looked ugly, the first day it hurts pretty bad. Second day it hurts pretty bad. Third, but after like the 1,000th time, you're just kind of like, okay. And so when I started realizing it's just part of the business, and obviously I've been 8 years into it, it was kind of two things. One is you just get numb to it. You're just like, yeah, it is what, like, you look at like what your team has done and stuff, and as long as they've done the same things that the successful people have had, you're just like, it's on them, and that's part of the game. And so it's like, if you don't like it, got to get out. And then number two is that you just start distancing yourself from it a little bit, because when you're in the beginning of the business and it's just you're seeing all of that. But eventually you just put employees in between. So the employees see it and they're not as emotional, right? They don't really care if someone's like, I hate Tanner or whatever, but I'll care, right? And so it's just kind of knowing to distance yourself from that, because it doesn't do you a whole lot of good. What you just really need to focus on is, again, you make it as good as you can. But I started to realize over time that no matter how good you make it, not everyone can win. And that's the thing people just don't say. And the reason is simple. It's like, if you're better at sales and you're better at like messaging, you're better at hiring or training, like you're going to get better results than this person. So I can help them get better. But a bad basketball player who's a 3, if he gets to a 5, he's still pretty bad. But if LeBron James is a 10, it's like, oh, LeBron, but it worked for LeBron. It's like, yeah, but dude, it's LeBron, right? And that was hard for me to understand. But after a while, I started to see that, because you start seeing patterns, and you would see like this industry, I would say like, the businesses we're talking about right now, like internet marketing, information, whatever. Like if you get to 2 million a month, like that's like top 1%. It's like, 0.1%. Some of these companies I'm talking to about like tech, private equity, hedge funds, it's like 2 million a month is like, they're like, that's not really good. Like you're not doing so good. So I just think I realized it was like, hey, part of it's the model, part of it's the person. And so if I don't like it, I need to get out. But if I'm in it, then you just need to accept it. And obviously you don't want people to lose and fail and stuff like that. But it's like, why can't everyone get in shape? You really think it's like you're giving them different information? It's just like some are executing and some are not.
Fair enough. Okay. So, as you then continue through that business, so the difficult bit was at the beginning. I think that when people haven't made any kind of money, they think, oh, when I start making money, life will just be plain sailing. It'll be easy. I'll travel first class everywhere, drive a Lamborghini, and life will be great. Yeah. What was that next difficult moment for you? Like, at what point in the business, what kind of revenue was it at? What were the issues that you were experiencing? Like, from the entrepreneur perspective than in the business.
Sure.
Because I think that's the bit that gets overlooked so often. I'll bring teams and systems in and then everything will be fine. Yeah. But you're still a human at the end of the day.
Sure. So like, just from like the mental perspective, I remember I saw Billie Jean's ad, and from the moment I saw that ad, like 18 months later, I was doing $1 million a month. And I remember that was my goal. And I remember when I hit it, I was living in Miami at the time. I had like a really crazy penthouse. I had a Lambo. Like it was like, on paper it looked great, right? And so I remember I had this massive party, and I was like so stoked. And all these random people came over. This was right before COVID, or maybe it was during COVID. They were like, all right, you can have this one party and then that's it. And all these people came over, and I remember this guy was like, whose house is this? And I'm like, oh, it's mine. He's like, oh, cool. What's your name? Like, why are you having the party? And I was like, oh, like, I start telling him, right, I had $1 million a month, and he just was like, cool. Like, he just could not care less. And I just remember thinking, when he did that, I was like, dude, in my head, I'm like, I just sacrificed for 18 months. Like literally, like I really had no life. It was just grind, which is fine. Like, that's what I wanted to do. But I think it was because part of it was because I thought, man, when I get there, like, it's going to be magical. Right. And it wasn't. So that was really tough, because that took me down like a whole, I don't know, like, I don't even want to say mental health journey. It was just like a whole thing where I was like, well, man, if I hit a number that like most people never will, and I'm nobody, what about these other big people like Mark Zuckerberg or Barack Obama, or like even people don't know who they are, right? Or they're like, who, Mark Zuckerberg? It's crazy. Like, I'm like, dude, how do you not know who Mark Zuckerberg is? So that was on the mental side, where I had to really find more meaning in life, or realizing like those things aren't gonna like do it for you. On the business side, it was just more like, the biggest thing I've learned in business that has really helped me to date is just learning how to hire correctly. Because I look back now at all the times I was super stressed out, or we had a lot of issues, or clients were unhappy more than normal and stuff like that. And it was always a bad hire. It was just like, when you find someone who wants to be the best they can be, they take pride in doing a good job, and they're just intelligent. Like, they're actually good at what they do. I did a post about this yesterday on Facebook. Like, I have 2 account managers right now. I talk to them, I don't know, like maybe 15 minutes a day max, like slacking, no issues. Get tons of reviews, tons of re-signs. Clients are always like, they're amazing. No problems. In the past, I would hire people, and like, they would maybe say the right things, but they wouldn't be doing it. Or I'd overlook certain deficiencies, right? Like I'd be hiring for an account manager, but they didn't have any marketing experience. But I was like, oh, that's fine. Like we'll teach them. Like now I'm like looking for the best player. So like instead of like, you know, let's say it's the NBA draft or like we're in the UK, like football, right? Like you're not picking the guys like, oh, he looks like he has a lot of potential. You're just like, that's the best player. And the reason the best players are better is because you don't have to tell them as much. You don't have to teach them as much. They can come up with ideas on their own. And once I started shifting that, business became fun again, because like what happens for a lot of owners is they start building the team. They're really good at doing the work, like especially owners who get to like, let's say 100,000 a month. They're really good at working hard, but then they're like, hey, I can't do all the work. I need to hire people. So they start hiring staff, but they hire the wrong people. So then what happens? It's almost like a child. Like you've had 5, so you know it's like I'm paying all this money to like take care of them, and I'm doing their job. They don't really do it. Like you know, it's kind of like that feeling. And so I just started to see like I have to make the right hire, because if you do, they'll come in, do the job, and they'll almost tell you what to do, and you just get out of the way. So over time, I started to see that the job of the CEO is really to assemble the team. It's almost like the management office in sports. Like if you can assemble the right players, you don't really have to do too much. And so that's why, you know, even, you know, I'm American, so like I use the NBA a lot, but like they say Phil Jackson's one of the best coaches of all time, but like he got Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan. It's like, well, dude, like, and Shaq, it's like, what did you really have to do though? Like those guys were going to win regardless. And that's what's made business a lot more fun for me and easier is being, I guess, over the top, kind of paranoid about who I hire, almost like a wife. Okay. Like you wouldn't just find a girl and you're like, she'll work. It's like you would make sure she checks all the boxes, and you would do kind of like a practice run. And so even with employees now, I'll do stress tests. I'll like if it's a content person, I'll say, hey, I'll pay you $500. Send me your content, and then we'll see how it does. Because you bring these people in, you would try them out for 3 months, and it's like you just waste a ton of time, a ton of money, a ton of effort, a ton of energy. That's really, I think the key is like finding the best players, because then all you have to do is get out of the way and let them work.
Okay. So what would you say then for a business now that's headed towards that 100K month? What would you say are the first hires that they should be looking at?
Yeah. So if it's like a high ticket info type business, I always say like hire out the most time intensive but least important position. So for me, I always say fulfillment is the first. Why? Because it takes the most time, but it's quote unquote the least important, meaning it's not that it's not important, but if you stop making sales, the business dies. If you have a happy customer, you'll live, right? You'll survive and you'll get better. So usually it was fulfillment. Then after that, it was some type of lead generation. So any type of setter or like DM work, right? And then after that, once you're past 100K, then you can start looking for a sales rep. But the cool part is, you can get to 100,000 a month with something high ticket with, 4 or 5 people. And it's like 2 coaches or account managers, 2 setters, and then maybe you have like 1 auxiliary player or a VA. Like you really don't need that many people.
Where do you think AI fits in the mix with everything? Because that's one of the big changes since obviously you initially built things up.
Yeah.
Like where do you think it's best in a high ticket business at this point in time?
Yeah, I mean, there's like a lot of places you can use it. I don't think they're 100% of the way there, but I think chatbots will definitely be like the biggest one, because obviously you'll save money. You don't have to manage setters. It works 24/7. It doesn't sleep, that type of thing. Yeah. You'll see it a lot with like pictures, like editing, stuff like that, graphic design, copy. Like even now, like what I'll do is like I can write ads, and then I'll put it in like Claude or ChatGPT, and it like gives me different variations, or else, that's kind of where I see it helping the most, is probably in those categories. The other part that I do use it a lot for is just thinking. It's almost kind of like my personal coach. Like I'll put an idea and I'm like, hey, like da-da-da, and it like spits back like different information. Yeah. I think it's definitely making like information less important, because like it's so like I even when I go to different countries, like I'm just like, hey, give me the best hotels, give me the best Airbnbs, give me the best restaurants, and it just gives it to me, instead of like, remember on Google, you'd have to kind of sort through it. But I do think like the biggest thing eventually will be some type of chatbot, but I think outside of that, it's like copy, graphics, design, editing, it's just making kind of manual tasks like a little bit more efficient, a little bit faster.
Yeah, we're very hot on it for chatbots and also voice agents. I think voice agents,
like calling.
Yeah.
Like
So,
for setting, right?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you get a lead come in, they've either purchased a low ticket product or they've just registered their number, bang them out immediately, get calls going out. And I think that for me, the thing I've seen is I completely agree with what you're saying about hiring top tier talent. I think the issue is a lot of businesses aren't very appealing to top tier talent. So it's making themselves appealing. What's the gap? And I think that right now being able to plug in like an AI setter or an AI voice agent beats most of the setters that are available on the market who bought a course for $1,000 and have
no. I agree with that. I actually, I 100% agree with that. Like, so in the beginning of business, you may not be able to hire the best talent because you can't afford it. The key is kind of knowing where the market range is. So like, if someone was like, hey, I want a full-time setter who's good, I'm like, the lowest you're going to probably spend is like $4K USD, and then it's going to probably have to be closer to $7 if you want someone good, right? Like if you want like a really good COO or something, I'll say the lowest would be like 15 grand a month, but you probably have to get closer to 25. So if you can't pay those ranges, I really don't see the point, because people will be like, oh yeah, I found this guy. I'm like, the reason they're taking so little is like they're not getting other offers, which that's not a good thing, right? Like it's a bad thing, right? They're like, oh, I found the sales rep who's going to take $4 grand a month. I'm like, dude, a good sales rep's not going to take less than 10, right? But I agree with you. Like, if you can't get someone good, that is either your best option or just do it yourself.
So what do you think then? What do you think is the future of the market? Because the high ticket coaching space and even just the general info market is very crowded at the minute.
Yeah.
I definitely am not somebody who subscribes to the whole, oh, it's too crowded, it's going to fall apart. Because I'm from the recruitment industry that was one of the most crowded industries, and we still did absolutely fine. But what do you think the next 5 years looks like in this space?
Well, it's like, I have an interesting perspective. I've been in it for 8 years. So something that I do think happens is, when someone new comes into the info space, they kind of have usually, again, this is just my opinion, but like maybe a 2-year runway where it's like they're the new thing. And you notice a lot of times in the info space, like a business owner's like, oh, like I need this. And it's usually not the case. It's like, yeah, like you just need to do more of what you're doing. So I've seen that, which I think has been interesting. I think the longer you're in this space, it can get a little bit harder in the sense of like people have done your programs and then eventually like they leave, right? Like it's very rare where you like see someone who's like, oh yeah, I worked with them for 8 years, because like maybe 2 years, and it's like, okay, like it's information, so it's hard to keep them on unless you add in some done for you services. I don't think it's going away. I just think it's been made a little bit harder, where there's more people coming in, there's more competition, there's less trust, AI. So more than anything, I just feel like it's taking people, buying cycles are a lot longer now than maybe they were, pre-COVID. But yeah, like I guess like to finalize on that question, like I'm kind of like moving into higher level stuff, so to speak, and part of the reason is like what I just mentioned. I don't think it's as easy as it used to be. Not saying it's impossible or you can't win, but it's like, I don't think it's as easy as it used to be. And I just think, depending on your goals, there's better business models to get there, right? Like I think info or high ticket business is great if your goal is like, I want to make a 1 to 2 mil a year or whatever, and I want a lot of time freedom and autonomy and stuff like that. I think that's great. But if your goal is to like really push the envelope and get into bigger businesses, I just think there's better vehicles at this point.
It's a good trench to learn in.
It's the best. Like actually those interviews I had, like almost every single guy had started in internet marketing. And I thought that was interesting, because I think what internet marketing really teaches you is like sales, marketing, fulfillment, hiring, like all the stuff that you need to run a business. And so when you go in these other industries, what you'll find is a lot of these people, like they don't know how to operate. Like VCs is the VC world especially is interesting. These like CEOs will come in, they have amazing ideas. Like, wow, they have no idea how to run it or execute. And I've always found that really interesting, because I really feel that at a high level, I can operate a business. And so I think that's the most valuable thing, unless you're some type of content creator and you go super viral. Because if you go super viral, those operators will come to you. But if not, that's really your edge, because you can go in different businesses and you know where to kind of move things to get them to work. Because a lot of business owners, like, they don't see it. They don't know the numbers. They don't know what levers to pull. And so, I think it's like definitely can help you move on to bigger and better things. Yeah.
So what would you say then? Like, obviously, over the time you've been in business, what would you say has been the best single bit of advice anyone has ever given you?
Best piece of advice. Shoot.
You're like, nothing.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of things, but I think when someone, like, even when someone says, like, what's the best piece of advice, or what would you tell your younger self? I think the thing that always pops up in my head that comes back is I just wished I had, like, invested in myself sooner. Right. And I don't say that so people, like, give me their money. I literally say that because for 2 years, like, I really went nowhere. And I didn't, and I just remember I was like, oh, I can't afford it. Like, I didn't even know people did that. Like, I was just, like, basically just trying to figure stuff out on my own. I didn't do a whole lot. Like, looking back now, it's like, bro, you weren't really doing anything. You were just kind of doing busy work. And as soon as I invested in someone, obviously I had 5 or 6 coaches in a row where things didn't go well, but people think like success is linear. And I did as well. Like, I thought, man, if I could have just not paid those 5 coaches and just got to the 6th one. But it's kind of like a relationship. It's like, if you're going to find your wife, you're going to have some girlfriends before where you're like, I don't really like that. I do like that. I don't like this. I do like this. And people, like, they want to skip it. Or they think like, oh, I paid this person, it didn't work out, it's a failure. It's like, how's it a failure? Because you're either going to get more closer to your goals, or you're going to learn what not to do. So, over the years, I've estimated, like, I've probably spent like 3 million of personal income on like mentorship or whatever. And I'd say like 2.4 of it, which is a massive amount, didn't actually help me make more money. Like, I did the things and it was like, it either kept it the same or I did worse. So that means like 20%, 600 grand actually moved the needle. But all the stuff I learned not to do, it still helps me a ton, because when people ask me stuff, I'm like, no, don't do that. I did that. And now like where I'm at in business, I even realize a lot of times some people are guessing. Like, sometimes they know because they did, but sometimes they're just guessing. And like, if you ask me a question, I would try to take based off my experiences and data and what I've seen with clients. But sometimes I've even seen like a client, let's say they do a challenge and they crush, and this client does a challenge and they don't. I'm like, and it's like, oh, theirs offers better, or they're more skilled. It's just like some intangible things that you can't read into. So the best advice I would just say is, like, people who are on the fence or they're scared, it's like, just invest. If you don't know what to do and you're not getting results, find someone that you think you can pay. And at the end of the day, if it doesn't work out, you got to be okay with that, because the thing that really changed for me is, like, when you don't have a lot of money, you think, oh, if I don't do this, like, I can't pay my rent, or, like, I'm going to be homeless. And I know this will sound crazy, but I eventually got to the point I was like, yeah, but I mean, if I'm homeless, like, I'm still all right. Like, I'm still technically okay. It's like, if I was in a homeless shelter, I had to go live at a friend's house or whatever, like, it's not ideal. You're not going to brag about it, but I'm okay. And I think when you can get to a point where you're willing to abandon the ship to that degree, you'll be very successful. A lot of people, they're not willing to. They're either afraid of people's judgments, or they don't want to go through that heartache or hardship. And I'm just kind of crazy like that. Like, I'll do it. So
I think there's a thing, isn't there? Like, there's this big moment, like you say, you got to the point where you were just willing to do whatever, and you were willing to give up anything. And I think that one of the things I hear a lot, obviously, like, I'm married, we have a house, I've got 5 kids. Yeah. People go, oh, but you've got a responsibility. I've been called reckless for walking away from essentially a safe middle-class life for the rest of my life.
Oh, I mean, in your position, it's definitely harder as well. I also want people to know that, like you trying to do what I just said is way more, like, quote unquote risky than, like, I start when I'm 20.
Yeah, well, I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's finding that mindset, because I think all entrepreneurs have that thing that sometimes they just need to dig to find. It's that piece of, actually, you're doing it for yourself. Like, I can dress it up that I'm doing it for my wife and my kids. Yeah. But I'm not. I'm doing it for me, because I'm risking everything. And I know when those moments, and Cody Sanchez said something that really resonated. you've not crossed the start line of business until you're sat in a dark room with your head in your hands crying, being like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And it's like, when you realize that's entrepreneurship, you're usually too deep into it at that point to really come out.
Yeah.
But it's a scary place to be able to know you're willing to risk everything to make it. And you know that there's a chance that you might not.
Yeah.
But your situation now is very different from what you see on the outside. Yeah. What motivates you now? Because from the outside, people just look and
yeah. So I took kind of what helped me get to like where I'm at now, mindset wise, is like I took a 6-month sabbatical a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. So I had like 100 staff. I stepped out. I was like, yo, I'm done. You guys run it, whatever. And I was just traveling full time. And basically, I just did whatever I wanted every day. Like I'd wake up, I'd think about what I was gonna eat, what I was gonna do, you know, what girl I was gonna talk to, and I literally just the whole day it was just like doing whatever I wanted. And like 6 months into it, I was like, I don't know. I'm going to go back to work. I'm just going to work for a bit, see if I like it, whatever. And I remember the first day I went back to work, the day ended and I was like, wow, like I feel great, you know? And, it's got to probably be like people who eat McDonald's every day. I didn't realize how bad I felt till I had started working. Mm-hmm. And so I think for a while I didn't want to work because like, well, you know, I got to this massive goal and no one cares and I don't really care and it didn't really do anything. So what's the point? And I think a lot of people get to that. But then I just started realizing that, you know, if you want to call it God or spiritual or like whatever, if you don't even believe in it, I just have found that whenever I do things that take discipline, I seem to feel better. And then when I do things that are more hedonistic, I don't. And it's about as simple as that for me. Like when I feel like I'm trying to grow, like I feel good when I'm trying to grow. So for me now, like to answer your question, it's like, it's just about growth. So do I need more money? Not really. Like, do I need to build other companies? Not really. Like it's the same reason I travel. Like I love traveling and seeing different cultures and learning and stuff like that. I feel more alive when I'm kind of like just chilling and relaxing and I'm just sipping martinis or whatever. I don't feel very good because you're not doing anything. And I don't know, like you can call it God, whatever, but like, I just think the key to life is like constantly be growing. And that's when you're going to feel the best. And when you're not growing, you're not going to feel quite as good. And so it's kind of almost like, I don't want to say it's super deep, but I kind of feel I'm in a spot where I found, hey, this is how life works. And so I can either do it and feel good or I cannot do it and feel bad. You could like sit there and try to figure out what it is. But when I do hard things, I feel better. And when I don't do hard things, I feel worse. And so I just really jump on the train of like constantly trying to push myself. Sometimes I do get a little annoyed where like I'll say to people, I'm like, yeah, I wish I could just be more average. Like, and I wish I could genuinely feel okay. There's some people I meet and they're just like, yeah, I just want to, you know, chill. And I'm like, bro, like
it's such a strange thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I always refer to them as settlers. And it's people,
Settlers,
they're people who they have and there's nothing wrong with having like a very average job, but they show up, they clock in, they clock out, they go home. And like after my mum passed away, like I stopped everything I was doing and I went and cleaned train carpets at nighttime for a few months just to get back to the working world.
Yeah.
And these people had been doing this job for 20 years. And they would just, every night, they would come in at 10 o'clock, clean the tables of the trains, clean the floors, and then they'd sit there on their phones until the station master left 3 or 4 hours early. As long as you walked out behind the station master, you could leave early. If you walked one step in front of him, you'd have been disciplined for leaving early. It was this weird culture of, and I was like, it's such a weird, and I've had the same conversation with my wife of sometimes I wish I could just care less, and I wish I could just be okay, just wanting to be average.
I agree.
Like,
I don't even know what makes me tick that way, but that's how I tick, and so that's why I just keep going. So we'll see where I end up, but I think the balance is like, you know, be content with what you have, but always be striving for more. And like I love to read, I love to learn, I love to travel, like all these things that like help you grow. That's what I like. And I agree. I just, you know, I wish sometimes I wasn't that way, but I am. So, you know, I can try to like get to the bottom of the barrel of like why it is, but it just is how it is. So.
I think everyone's wired slightly differently. And I think, like you say, once you find that meaning of life for you, I think sometimes the issue for a lot of people who consume a lot of content and they're always looking for that answer is they're trying to then model somebody else. And they're like, well, it worked for Tanner or it worked for Allan, so I'm going to do that thing too. And it's like, I remember getting a morning process from somebody in a program that it doesn't exist anymore. And it was about 9 pages long and there was 100 affirmations in it. And I started reading it and I was like, okay, I'll do this because I paid the money to be in this program. And my brain would just switch off. And the guy was like, this is the key. You need to do this every day. And I was like, I don't need to do this and I don't want to do this. And I think that that's the piece of being strong enough to find you.
Yeah. And
I think that's the one thing that I would say, having seen you over those last like 7 years or so, is you're always very unapologetically you. Like you show up online and you really don't give a fuck. Yeah. You just do whatever you want to do. And I think that that's the bit that middle part, like you say, in the early years when you maybe got a lot of heat for that or a lot of grief from people, like that's one of those phases that you have to just push through, because now you're the other side of it and you're able to be like, well, we've done 141 million or whatever the number is. Yeah. And people are go, okay, well, he must surely know something now. It's not like, oh, it's just a couple of million. Yeah. Like even a couple of million when you're sat there in a 9 to 5, you're like, what do you mean a couple of million? It's still a lot of money. Yeah. But I think that's the thing, is just finding that path in life. So for you, what do you think, because you're what, mid-30s now?
Yeah, 34.
So have you got like, I know obviously you've got a girlfriend now, like, and I saw your brother comment on that. Like, you obviously very loved up, that kind of thing. Yeah. What's next for you? Like, are you looking at obviously the business stuff, but are you looking at kids down the track and marriage?
I mean, I think that kind of goes back to the same thing. Like, you know, the Andrew Tate lifestyle. Kind of dabbled in that. Not really. Like when I say dabble, like I never full on had like 25 girlfriends or something. But like, you know, I was just playing the field, and it's just not really fulfilling. And then kind of like anything, I think, you know, if you want to say high value man or whatever, like if you have a lot of girls vying for your attention, it kind of works the opposite way, right? So if there's a girl that a lot of guys are gonna go after. Those are the types of girls you want. It's like that type of girl's not going to usually settle if the guy's like, well, I have, you know, other girlfriends. Well, she's like, well, I, you know, have 30 guys who want to date me, so I'll just date them, right? And so there's always some like logical stuff. There's also some emotional stuff in my decisions. But yeah, like I would prefer like, you know, a long-term relationship. I want a couple of kids. I don't want a ton. Like I come from a family of 7. I think it depends on what you want. Like if like my parents, their whole mission was kids, so they had 7. That's great, and I'm grateful they did, and I have a bunch of siblings. For me, like, I'm growth-minded, so it's like I don't see reason not to have kids. That's kind of what, and I actually have met a few girls in the past when I was single where they were like, oh, I don't want kids, and I actually could feel in my my heart, I was like, oh, like I don't really like that. Like I like having the option. So I think I'll probably have 2 or 3, but I don't want it to be too many because I still want to like grow and explore in my own way. You know, so whether that's selfish or not, that's kind of how I feel. In terms of business, like I'm moving more into like the big 3, I call them. So like private equity, tech, hedge funds, that's kind of where I am. So like now what has kind of helped is private equity has become really easy because like all the coaching consulting I've done over the years, basically all private equity is like pushing away the lower level clients, only taking the top clients, working with them. I've done tech. It's a little bit of a nightmare, I'll be honest. That's why you make so much money, because it's like... you know, you be $200,000 to $500,000 in and may get nothing out of it. Right. And then like the hedge fund stuff, one of my private equity companies does that. And I mean, investing is actually one of the best things because all you got to do is take someone's money and then put it somewhere. And so as long as it obviously has to work out, but that's the actually one of the best industries because I look at some people just crushing it. It's like, yeah, we have this deal. Just put your money in here. Oh, we got this return. And I'm thinking... They basically do nothing. I mean, there's no fulfillment. I guess there's a little bit of sales, but it's easy because in the sense, anything where people can be lazy, they're always super advantageous to it. But yeah, like right now I'm just trying to grow. So I'm traveling quite a bit, trying to, you know, find wife, get a couple kids, still trying to move more in that business direction. And it's really just, it's growth, right? Like, I think if you do the same thing for too long, teach their own, but I'll see some guys that are doing the same thing for like 40 years. And I'm just like, bro, like, like, I kind of feel like I've conquered that hill and I don't want to keep doing the same thing. So, you know, to each their own, but again, that's the downside is like, once you get to the top of the hill, you kind of have to like go on the next hill.
Yeah.
And if you're not willing to do that, I just think life gets very like stale and gets very boring because it's too easy, so to speak.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, a couple of questions before we wrap up then. So
Sure.
obviously you've interviewed a lot of people who are very wealthy, billionaires, like multi-hundred millionaires. What is the common denominator between all of them? Because they're all from different industries and stuff.
Yeah.
But what ties them all together?
Yeah. So that's actually the reason I did it. Because when I was kind of looking for my next thing, I was like, what is it that makes them like succeed, you know? So number one thing I saw was usually they had like some type of internet marketing background. I thought that was interesting because they'd learned how like businesses operate, how they move, etc. The second thing was that they would be in some type of business model that had easy to know fulfillment. So going back to what I said, like tech, easy to know fulfillment, private equity, like there's some fulfillment potentially, but it's easy. Hedge funds, right? And so they're in the right vehicle. That was, and like off the top of my head, I think I have one more. I can't remember it now, but that was the biggest things. Like they had this skill set and then they just picked the right vehicle. And then the thing that I was looking for too is I was like, how'd you come up with the idea? Right? I was like, how'd you come up with it? And like half the time it just naturally happens. Kind of the same way like I grew in business. Like I had a fitness company, did well, then trainers asked for help, then more people asked for help. Like I remember a guy named Justin Hartfield. He sold weed maps for like close to $2 billion in like 2 years. And it's like a weed. It's just finding weed. And he's like, yeah, I just like weed, man. And like no one was doing it. So I built it. I was like, what? But that was the biggest thing is like internet marketing background. And then they were just in the right vehicles because you can work really hard. But if you're in the wrong vehicle, it's like digging a hole with a toothpick versus a shovel. And that's what I've realized over time is once you're working at peak capacity, the difference between like even clients I've seen some clients that are like really not great business owners, but they make a ton of money just because their offer is much better than the other business owner. And so, and then remember Hermosi's book came out, $100 million offers. And so I don't, usually the first time something hits me, it doesn't like hit that hard. But after you see stuff like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times, you're like, oh, that's the key. So it was really those two main things. And that's what I saw across 40 interviews. It was like there's one other one I just can't remember. Those were 2 out of 3, yeah.
So they don't all have some crazy morning routine they all do. They don't all jump in ice baths every morning.
No, I mean, some do, obviously. But like looking across all 40, I was like, you guys have all had internet marketing backgrounds. And all of them were one of those 3. All of them. I'm telling you, like private equity, tech, or hedge funds. There were a few anomalies where it was like, hey, I made this thing, but even weed maps is like it's technically tech, right? Like so he built it, right? But it's tech, and so I would see those patterns. I'm like, that must be a reason to get there. I think if you look at most billionaires, like most of them are in those 3, right? You got a couple inventors, like Mark Zuckerberg invented Facebook, but it's still tech, right? Yeah. And so I thought that was interesting. Yeah, interesting.
Okay, so what would you say to the younger generation, because you're now you're in your 30s now, not in your 20s. There's Gen Alpha underneath us, and there's a couple of generations underneath me. What would you say to that teenager who is starting to try and find their way in the world? They're being told that they need to go to school. In this country, they're called GCSEs, but like your SATs, go to college, etc. Like, what would be your advice to them?
Yeah, kind of similar to what I said earlier. I think they have to want to be an entrepreneur, because I see some kids and it's like, you should go to school. Like you need a job. Like, you're not ambitious enough. You're not going to do it. But if that's the route they want to go, it's just start making mistakes, start failing, start investing, start paying, like get in a coaching program or learn online or whatever. Like, cause even now, like I'll see kids, they're like, oh, I'm 16, I'm 19, I'm doing, $20,000 a month. I'm like, bro, how? It's really just starting. And I think now it's just become so accessible to people, especially with the internet, right? My dad, will comment to me. He's like, what you do wasn't even a thing when I was your age. Like, it wasn't possible. And so obviously it'll probably be the same thing for my kids or your kids, where you'll see stuff you're like, yeah, it didn't even exist. So I just think, if they want to do that, like my kids, I'm totally cool with them doing that, but I'm just like, it's going to be tough, and you need to kind of be willing to make the ton of mistakes and have it, failures, because, you get rewarded for how much risk you take in life. I mean, it's pretty simple. It's like if you're an employee, you're taking less risk, so you get paid less. If you're the CEO, you get paid way more because you took all the risk. And so you just need to decide like how much risk tolerance you have. And then people who have a lot of risk tolerance, like it's just like, okay, so start failing because you're not going to skip failure. And I think I thought that for a long time when I was starting business. And then over time, you're like, oh, the faster you fail, the quicker you'll get to success.
Yeah, so failure is a key part of success.
Yeah, and it's how you grow. Whenever I get upset about like when I'm having a bad day or like things are tough personally or business-wise, I just realize like that's how you grow. And so again, you can call it God or like, I don't, whatever your belief is, but like sometimes I think that's how it was built. It was like, that's why we have to like do hard things and push against something and have opposition, because if we don't grow, right? When things are easy and just like namaste, it's like, yeah, life's great. You might feel good for a bit, but then it gets kind of boring, gets a little stale.
So how do you think that you find your risk tolerance for the first time? If you've always lived in a like safe bubble of school, your friend group, like mum and dad's house, whatever, how do you find that risk tolerance? Because you obviously just jumped into it.
Yeah,
didn't you?
usually things just have to get bad enough to where you do jump into it. So, like, my parents made okay money, but there were 7 kids, so it was just never they were like, you got to figure stuff out on your own. So that right away was like, okay, that's out the door. And then I started looking at how much money I wanted to make, and I was like, okay, this is the only way I'm going to make it. And then for 2 years, I kind of was like, I'll do it on my own. And then I got to the point, it's like, dude, if I don't figure it out this year, I need to go back to school. Like, I was so sick and tired of being tired. So, I think that's why, wealthy children or children who come from wealth, they don't ever do as well because they have a backup plan. Like mom and dad will pay for it or it's kind of easy street. The kids who seem to do the best, it's kind of like it's win or die. Like you got to figure it out on your own. So if I was going to the way I'll raise my children is, I'll give them what they need, but probably nothing more. Because the downside is that when you give your kids too much, I just think, like you want to because you want them to have a better childhood, but I think if you give them too much and you make life too easy, they have no incentive to push, right? So when things were tough for me, my parents were like, sorry, like good luck. When some of my other friends had tough times, their parents would give them money. And so I've become way more successful than those friends because I just think like they don't have the ambition to drive because what is it? It's like, why would you go through all this hell if you don't have to? So, I mean, and it's going to sound funny. Like sometimes I think it's more on the parents. It's more on the parents to push your kids in like difficult situations or like whether it be sports or, academics or you don't give them so much money or like, like you give them if you give them a car when they're 16, but maybe kind of a shitty car, stuff like that, where it's just not like all convenient for them because I mean, most people that are millionaires or make a ton of money, like they're self-made. So it's like, why did they become self-made? Because they wanted something better. So I think you have to have something to push against. Obviously, like as a kid, I don't think you have 100% control on manufacturing that. You're not going to make your life harder on purpose. But I think parents, they have a lot more control on that than they think. And I think making your children's life too easy is actually a detriment in the grand scheme.
Cool. That's good. So how do people get in touch with you if they're interested in what you do? They want to learn more. What are the best ways to get in touch?
YouTube or Instagram, just my name, Tanner Chidester. Not a lot of people have it, so it should be easy to find. Chidester, Chidester, and one of those 2 places, yeah.
Cool. Well, I appreciate you coming on. It's been great to have you, and look forward to seeing you again soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Cool. Thanks for taking the time to watch and listen to the Allan Miles Show in this particular episode. If you do want to reach out to me, please reach out on allanmiles.com or allanmilesconsultancy.com. You can contact us directly there or reach out to me on any of my social platforms. Just search up Allan Miles, ALLANMILES, and you'll find me on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook.